Good evening, happy Thursday. Welcome to the Trey Olds Radio Show. My name is Trey Olds. Thank you for joining us this evening. Today my special guest is Mr. Gary Allen. Thank you and join us in a minute. Okay, Gary, my first question to you is, how did you get started in radio? How did you get started in the radio industry?
Well, it wasn't anything that I originally pursued. It wasn't what I went to college for to begin with, but I sort of got sidetracked many years ago when I was in college by doing some production for the our radio and television department, and I sort of became enamored with it and dropped out of my major, what I was doing at that time, although I was a journalism major, but my side thing was to eventually become an airline pilot like my dad, but that didn't quite work out, and it just didn't work out, and so I changed my major into broadcast journalism, and from there it kind of had some wings and some life for a while, and then I dropped away from it. I went to Los Angeles via Pittsburgh and became an actor and did a little bit of stuff in Los Angeles for a while.
Wow. Do you still act? Do you still do act?
No. Only in the mornings when I tell my cats I'm giving them this sort of cat food, then I have to act. But no more acting for me. That's well, unless you consider what we do on the radio acting, I suppose, to a certain extent. But
sure.
No more. I was mediocre at best at that, and I got some work, but nothing any substantial that you can hang your hat on.
Yeah. My main thing is radio like you, but I've done some acting from time to time. I enjoy it, but it always comes back to my radio show.
Yeah. Well, where part of the world are you located in?
I'm in Mississippi.
I spent a month there one night.
Yeah, you're in Florida, huh?
Yeah, I'm in Central Florida now, but that's going to probably change before too long.
Oh. I've been to Florida. Nice place to be.
Yes, it is. So how did you get into radio?
Well, I got in radio 6 years ago. I've been doing radio for 6 years, and ever since I was a little kid, I was always fascinated with entertainment, television, comedy, radio, anything in entertainment. And as the years went on, as I got older, I said, hey, I want to give that a try. I see everyone else on television doing it. I thought I should give it a try. And I've met some friends who were in radio, and they helped me get started. And the first 2 years I did my show, I played music. I was a DJ, disc jockey. I played music.
Okay.
And I met some other friends, and they said, well, you should interview people, talk radio, talk show radio.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'll try that. And they said, well, since you were interested in acting and entertainment and all that, try local actors, or if you can, try to get big name actors. And
I'm afraid I'm not a big time actor. I'm just a talking head for the moment.
I'm a talking head too, not big time either.
Yeah. But no, I when I was at the University of Miami, I interned at a radio station down there, WIOD, and they were on the 79th Street Causeway, and they were called WIOD because it was called the Wonderful Isle of Dreams. And for me and for a lot of broadcasters, it was the beginning of our careers. I was lucky enough that I interned for Larry King. I did overnights with him.
Oh, wow.
Along with some others on the staff, a number of nights a week, and I learned from him, watching him, and listening to him, even when I wasn't board opting for him. The art of interviewing people, the art, and I've always used that as I've gone through life, whether it was in or out of a station. Because as a young actor, I walked away from radio, as I said earlier, for many years. And my biggest mistake when I was in Los Angeles was not pursuing radio. And then after about 15 years of being away from it, I started to get back into it, but I hadn't realized the changes that had occurred. Because I wasn't paying any attention. That the mom and pop radio stations that dominated the countryside and gave young broadcasters an opportunity to grow and learn and move on to bigger markets and keep growing as a broadcaster, they were gone. It was all syndicated talk shows of a political bent, and the corporations owned the radio stations. And, it was my miscalculation, but I got to do some things along the way and started slowly but surely getting back into it. And then it got interrupted again, and I took care of my mom and dad for about a 10-year period. So I stopped my life completely, and after my father, he was the last one to go, passed in 99, within about a year and a half, I moved out of South Florida after moving back to take care of them because I was living in Chicago at the time. I moved out to Las Vegas, and my whole plan out there was to just maybe get a job in a casino. I had a few friends, meet somebody, fall in love, and maybe spend the rest of my life being happy. And lo and behold, show business fell into my lap again. It wasn't anything that I was truly looking to pursue, but it just happened. It just kind of happened. So I've been very fortunate in that respect, and over the years doing my podcast as I did for 7 years has enabled me to put together quite a Rolodex of individuals and people that I call upon from time to time. And now that I'm doing the Sunday show out of Miami on 880 The Biz, it's allowing me to open up to a market that I'm familiar with, and that's South Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, radio is interesting because there's so many things you can do, so many.
Radio is a medium of imagination. For instance, if you read a book and you read the page where it says a gentleman walked down the street and heard the backfire of a car, well, you can imagine in your mind what kind of car that was, how he was dressed, what was the street like. Whereas if you look at television or a movie, it's already there in front of you. Well, radio's the same thing. There's that mystery. A lot of people who work in radio have good voices or have good command of the English language, and you expect them to be one thing when you meet them, and there's something else altogether. They don't look the way you expect their voice to portray what they look like. So radio is an illusion, and it's a good one. And I've always enjoyed it, and I continue to do so. Because you can have a great deal of fun with it if you allow yourself to move forward. If the general manager of the station and your program director is open-minded and allows you to have some fun with people, you can draw and bring the audience in and make it a very entertaining and informative time on the radio. Because the worst thing you can do in any form of show business, Troy, is to bore your audience. The minute you do that, you lose them.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to keep going, If you lose your audience, that's bad, That's very, very bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't lose your audience. You have to know your audience. You have to know what they want. You have to know where you're broadcasting from. If you're broadcasting in a big city, well, then you have to kind of keep your stories along those lines, and you probably have a plethora of people to pull from to have on your show. If you're living in a small town somewhere, it's a little more difficult. But it allows you to grow your imagination and grow your career and grow who you are. Some of the best lessons in this business are learned when you're under the gun. When you've got a few seconds to go and you got to get on the air and you don't know what to say and you're wondering what to say, and suddenly the light goes on, you're on the air, and you're it. And that's when sometimes you learn the biggest lessons of your life in the business. And that's true about anything. And you also have to be in a position, too, Troy, to fail.
Oh, yeah.
In order to succeed in this business, you have to fail. There used to be an old saying that in your first 5 years in the radio business, if you're not fired a couple of times, there's something wrong with you. And that's true. It's very true. I got fired within the first 3 years of being in the business when I worked in Miami. So,
Yeah.
You know, you've got to give yourself an opportunity to fail and learn. And each step along the way, you have to take it as because nobody, even Larry King, will tell you he doesn't know it all. People look up to him, but he doesn't know it all. There's nobody in this business that knows it all. There are some that know more than others, some that have a better insight than others, some that have a practical ability to know more than others, but not everybody knows it all. If everybody knew it all, then there would be no mystery to this business at all.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, you know, failure can be a wonderful thing, you know, because you can learn from it. And there's always room to learn, and you never stop learning. I learn something interesting every day, every time I do an interview, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's what it's all about. Knowledge is a wonderful thing. Knowledge is a weapon towards becoming more successful. You know, and I hate to use the word weapon, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
The more knowledge you have, the more chances are you'll have a chance to succeed if given the right opportunity. And that's the key, given the right opportunity. Sometimes you're not in the right place for the right opportunity. Sometimes you are, but you don't take advantage of it. And the one thing in my case that I was so headstrong in Los Angeles, and I was fairly immature in a sense, because I was thinking, oh, the next time I do something, it's going to break the light bulb and the red carpet's going to roll out. And no, you know, I'm a radio guy. I finally realized it when I was in my 40s, and I've been there ever since. And I'm content with it, and I'm fine with it. I'm not a millionaire with it. I never will be, but I'm content with the fact that I do the best I can when I can. And that's another key too, Troy. Be prepared and do the best that you can. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. The worst interviews are the ones where the people have a one-word answer, and I've had plenty of those. Yep, nope.
Me
yep,
too.
Nope. Or, you know, those drive you crazy. It's like talking to a wall.
Yeah, I've been there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great business, and it's one that I do recommend, but you have to understand sometimes you're not going to be able to stay in your hometown. And I'm not a big proponent of these broadcasting schools necessarily. I won't mention any of them, but one of them is named after a state in the Northeast. I'm not a big proponent of those anymore. They served their purpose at one time, but there's not that many jobs available anymore. The opportunities don't necessarily always come up. You know, it's like anything else in life. You have to be in the right place at the right time, and hard work and dedication is the key to any success in this business. You have to be willing to put in the time, and you have to be dedicated to doing it. And sometimes you don't feel like it, and maybe you can put it off for an hour, but you've got to get to it. You know, if you do a show 5 days a week, that's a lot of content for 2 or 3 hours a day.
Yeah. But you got to do it, and if you enjoy it, you know, it's rewarding in the end, you know.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's the whole thing. When somebody can turn to you who knows you're on the radio and say, hey, I heard your interview the other day. I really like that. Now, that's worth it. But the one thing that you always remember is the one negative. You can have all the hundreds of praises, and you love those. Those are great. But the negative. And then you also have to understand where the negative is coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's coming from somebody who wishes that they had put their foot out there to do what you're doing. And other times it's legit. Maybe they didn't like the way you asked a certain question or not. Sports and politics talk radio are famous for that. You can debate till the cows come home on anything in sports. Who was the best this? Who was the best that? And in politics, you know, it's all opinion. That's all it is. And your opinion and my opinion is no less than the people that are on the radio.
Yeah. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone. And it differs, you know. Everyone will not have the same opinion or same viewpoint.
No. That's what makes America great. And that's what makes us who we are. The fact that we all have differences of opinion. It may be a similar with a slight twist, difference, or it may